Getting ready for a big software engineering interview? Well, you absolutely need to know this one design pattern. It's the one that turns messy, tangled code into a seriously elegant solution. Today, we're cracking the code on the strategy pattern.
Does this look painfully familiar? Using these endless if-else-if statements to handle all the different ways to do something. Yeah, that's not just messy, it's a classic sign of bad design. But don't worry, we're going to fix it, and we're going to fix it right now using the strategy pattern.
So, what's the big deal really? Why is leaning on this giant block of conditionals such a bad idea? Because, this super common approach, it very quickly turns your beautiful, clean code into a tangled, unmanageable nightmare. Let's dig into exactly why that is.
Okay, so this approach has some serious drawbacks. For one, it is a total pain to maintain. Every single time you want to add a new option, you have to go back and change this same huge block of code. This actually violates a core principle of good software design, the open-closed principle. The idea is that your code should be open for extension, but closed for modification. And what you end up with ultimately is code that's just super complex and almost impossible to read.
But there is a much, much better way. So let's introduce the hero of our story, the professional solution to this mess, the strategy design pattern. This is the truly elegant way to manage a whole family of interchangeable behaviors inside your application.
So what is it exactly? Well, the official textbook definition is that the strategy pattern is a behavioral pattern where you define a family of algorithms, you put each one in its own separate class, and then you make their objects totally interchangeable. This means the main part of your app can use any of these algorithms without ever getting tangled up in the specific details of how they work.
Okay, that was a little formal, right? Let's just boil it all down to one simple sentence. It's all about having multiple ways to do something and letting your program choose which way to use while it's running. That's the secret sauce right there, that dynamic runtime selection.
Theory is great and all, but let's make this feel real. The absolute best way to understand the strategy pattern is to see it in an example you probably use every single day. Just think about any modern payment system. When you're checking out online, you get a bunch of options, right? You can pay with your credit card, you can use UPI, or maybe use a digital wallet. Well, each of these is a different strategy for paying.
See? This is the pattern in action. You, the user, you make a choice. The system then takes your chosen strategy, whether it's credit card or wallet, and executes that behavior dynamically. The system doesn't need a giant if-else block. It just uses the specific strategy object that you selected. Simple. All right, enough talk. Let's get our hands dirty and see what this actually looks like in code. We're going to build this thing out piece by piece so you can see for yourself just how clean and powerful this pattern really is.
So it all starts with a contract. In coding, we call this an interface. Think of it like a blueprint. This payment strategy interface just declares a common method that everyone has to have, something like pay. Every single concrete strategy that we create from now on has to follow this blueprint.
Next up, we create our actual strategies. Each payment method, like credit card or UPI, gets its very own class. And each of these classes follows the blueprint from our interface, providing its own unique implementation for how to actually process a payment.
And finally, we have the context. Now, I like to think of the context as the manager. Its job is to hold on to whichever payment strategy is currently selected. The manager doesn't know the messy details of how a credit card payment works, it just knows it has a job to do. When it's time to pay, it just delegates the request to whatever strategy object it's currently holding.
And here it is. This is the aha moment. The key idea here is that we have completely replaced that messy, rigid if-else block with the power of polymorphism. Now that's a fancy word, but all it really means is that our payment context, our manager, can treat all of our different strategy objects in the exact same way, because they all follow the same blueprint. And now we can have brand new payment methods just by adding new classes, without ever touching the existing code. How cool is that?
So why does all this matter for you as a developer? Well, because using patterns like this is what separates good code from truly great code. It's about thinking like a pro and building software that's actually built to last.
I mean, the benefits here are huge. You're untangling all that messy logic, making your code way cleaner and more readable. You get incredible flexibility. Adding a new behavior is as easy as plugging in a new compatible part. And you're cleanly separating what the client does from how the strategy actually does it. It's a win-win-win.
Okay, let's bring this all back home to your main goal, absolutely nailing that technical interview.
When the interviewer asks you about design patterns, here's how you talk about the strategy pattern to really impress them.
In the interview, you can confidently lay out both approaches. Explain that instead of one giant if-else block, you'd use separate strategy classes. Instead of constantly modifying existing code, you just add new classes. This shows that you're not just hard-coding logic, but that you're leveraging powerful concepts like polymorphism. It proves you get the why, not just the what.
If you only remember one thing for your interview, make it this sentence right here. The strategy pattern is all about selecting an algorithm or behavior at runtime. It decouples the code that uses an algorithm from the actual implementation of the algorithm itself. Say that, and trust me, you've nailed it.
And that is the strategy pattern, a seriously powerful way to make your code flexible, maintainable, and really impressive in an interview. If this helped you out, make sure you subscribe for our full design pattern series. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next explainer.